Let's talk about the important things to work on in your putting practice and the things that are not important to work on in your putting practice. Important things are direction control and distance control. And a couple of things that are not important to work on that people do spend their time on is trying to conform to a certain arc in their stroke, and they use either some template that's on the ground on a printed surface or a physical aid that your club rides up against to try to teach you how to make a certain arc. The problem with that is that you're trying to train a stroke that is unsupported. You can certainly make a slight arc, but you have the potential to go inside and outside. You're doing this with soft muscle memory, and there's a lot of potential for motion in the joints. So with this is a toe balance putter. A lot of people use toe balance. I'm just going to hold this very lightly in the inclined plane and swing it back and forth, and you can see that it creates a rather strong arc. Now I can firm up my grip and cut that arc down, make that a slight arc, and practice for hours on a putting template to try to conform to some arc, but I can still go inside and outside. So you can firm up your arms to your chest and get that less strong of an arc, but you could there's still potential easily for moving this putter way out of conformant with that prescribed arc. Now here's a putter with no torque in it, and I can just hold this very lightly in my hands just so it doesn't fall out of my hands, swing it back and forth, and you can see that that's a much slighter arc. So right there, this type of a putter is going to uncomplicate your stroke. You have a longer period where that face is pointing down your line rather than on a strong arc where it's only pointed momentarily down the line. Now, if I just, and that's just holding it very lightly, you're going to improve your stroke by using this type of a putter, but you can still make errors in the stroke because the joints have potential for motion. Now, one way you can fix that is to use the putters with torque in them to show. I'm going to use the soft end range pre-shot routine to stabilize the joints. These are the sources of motion that can cause your stroke to go off. That's in the wrist, elbows, shoulders, hips, knees. All these things can come into play. So I'm going to stabilize all those sources of motion here with the pre-shot routine and get lined up, and now swing this club back. And so it's got much less of an arc now, but I've had to increase my grip pressure, especially in my right hand. This is where we're most sensitive for delivering force, and since this putter has torque in it, I have to increase my pressure in my trail hand to prevent that. And so here, if I just leave my trail hand off, it's got a stronger arc, and I'll firm up my trail hand, and it decreases that arc. But that's increased the pressure in my dominant hand for tossing balls. You know, if you can imagine, play catch with somebody and you've got a ball in your hand and you firm up your grip, it's going to be much more difficult. That's firming up tendons in your arm, and it just interferes with your natural flow. So when you're applying force, so we've got the best of both worlds here is to use a putter that doesn't have torque in it, doesn't influence your stroke, and then get that stroke stabilized. Stabilize the sources of motion in the golfer, in the wrist, elbows, and shoulders. So now, once again, we have this very slight arc, just as if I was barely holding it, but now I have the stability. That arc, if I try to push this outside, I can feel pressure. If I try to pull it inside, I can feel pressure. This putter just wants to travel on this stable arc with no increased pressure in my dominant hand. So now I have great direction control from the stability here, and I have great feel for distance because I have no pressure in that right hand other than just applying force to the shaft. So you can really simplify your putting stroke and increase your stability by eliminating that all the motion in the golfer and motion that's caused by torque in the putter.